Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. Our V.I.P featured guest is from a small town in the Texas panhandle and was the first in her family to graduate from college. When she received her degree in petroleum engineering from the University of Texas at Austin. She then earned her MBA as a Longhorn while pursuing a successful career in the oil and gas industry for nearly 2 decades. Rising through the ranks at the largest privately owned natural gas producer in the United States, having equity and ownership during the time of great company growth was life-changing for her. So life-changing, in fact, that in 2016, she was able to retire from that industry at age 38. She quickly tapped into her creative side, amassing a following of over, listen up, Silhouettes, 85,000 in her Instagram account and thousands of monthly visitors to her website. She can share all of that with us in a minute. She began then investing her own money into female-founded companies. She is most proudly known as mommy to her 5-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son. And in their family, they say, teamwork makes the dream work. Silhouettes, let's welcome Carrie Colbert to the show. Carrie, hello, how are you?
Hi, Amber. I'm great. How are you today?
I am amazing connecting with you. I'm so excited to visit with you. And have you share your Silhouette of Success story with the audience. So thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
So in following you, my eyes just dance, first of all, with the vibrancy of just the aesthetics of what you're doing. But it is so deep in what you're doing. And I want to be able to give the stage to you to share your story and all of the amazing work that you're doing. But let's kick it off by having you, we talked a little bit about you in your intro here with the bio, some snippets from your bio, but have you share your story, beginning of your, share your background, share a little bit with the audience on how you became curated with what you're doing now.
Yeah, certainly. I think when you look at my career path from the outside, it can look very random and disjointed. But actually, kind of as an insider to my own experience, it's cool to look and see how every step has kind of led me to where I am now. And all that to say, I think in this day and age, so many young people feel so much pressure to figure out exactly what their passion is and what their purpose is and their calling, and all this pressure from an early age to have it all together and know what you're doing with your life. And I'm here to say that it's okay if it takes some time to get there. Nothing is lost on us. Like, every experience ultimately leads us to where we're supposed to be. So in other words, like, nothing's lost. I look at everything like, oh, I learned I liked this, or I don't like that, or I am good at this, or I'm not, the strongest at that. And so over time, you can really start to build a life that aligns with your values and your interests and strengths and personality and all that sort of stuff. So backing up, yep, I'm from a small town in the Texas panhandle. No one in my family had ever graduated from college, and I was valedictorian for my small town and good in math and science. And the high school counselor said, well, then you should study engineering. I'm like, great, what's engineering? And fortunately, we had like one engineer in our small town. And so I met with him and he said, you should study petroleum engineering because that's what I am. And Well, lo and behold, that's where I got the most scholarships. And so thus was the beginning of my career. Graduated at the top of my class of engineering. And the next logical step was to move to Houston because that's where all the job offers were. So early on, all of my professional decisions were just very practical and pragmatic in nature. I didn't really have the luxury of figuring out what do I want to do with my life. It was like, okay, where am I going to get the most scholarships? Then where am I going to get a job that pays the bills? And, I thought in a very traditional mindset of, going to work at a good company and staying there long term. But over time, I really evolved. And a big turning point for me was that the vast majority of my energy career was spent at a company that was very entrepreneurial in nature. So even though the industry, generally speaking, is still pretty old school, the founder and CEO of this company did things a lot differently. And so even though I was never passionate necessarily about the industry, I really learned so much working for him in terms of how to create an entrepreneurial company, how to incentivize employees to really work towards the company's success. And all those sorts of lessons really inspired me. And so I got to see and do a lot of cool things there. I ran the engineering side of the business, and then I ran finance and strategy and investor relations next. But ultimately, I was a little burned out. I definitely had been there during a lot of growth. The company had grown from, less than 100 million in value to over 5 billion when I chose to leave. And part of the reason I was able to leave, as you mentioned, was that we all had ownership. And so being there during such a time of growth had created some opportunities for me. And typically, people don't leave that company unless maybe they want to go start their own oil and gas company or whatever. Well, I just kind of up and walked away, and I didn't know what was next, but I felt confident that I could figure it out. And so what I knew, all that I knew, was that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, and I wanted it to be something that aligned with my own personal interest and values more than maybe my oil and gas career did. So yeah, that's how we end up here. And then, so long story, kind of short, I don't know, maybe I'm giving you the long version, but in between kind of the oil and gas days and the investing days, I kind of did, by accident, become a small scale influencer, I guess you could say, on Instagram. But I only mention that because that really it played a key role in what I'm doing now. So in between oil and gas and venture capital days, I also was very quietly um, kind of testing my concept for Curate Capital. It wasn't a big, master plan of mine, but I was basically reinvesting all of my own money that I'd made in the energy business into these female founded brands. And that happened very naturally and organically. I just started connecting with founders and CEOs and brands that I liked, whether they were following me or I was following them. I just formed relevant relationships in the space and then started getting these investment opportunities. And so, for about 5 years, I reinvested all of my own money into female founded brands. And really, three important things happened. One, I was having great fun. Two, I was having great results. And then three, I had just great deal flow. And what that means is that I just had so many incoming opportunities to invest. I saw the potential was so great. And so that's really what motivated me to actually start Curate Capital, which is a venture capital fund that invests in female founded brands.
Okay, so if you listen, I'm a note taker, and I love to write, and you are so correct. Everything when you mentioned early on that it doesn't seem you connected the dots so beautifully to the
You.
transitioning of your journey.
Well, and sometimes I think
Wow.
that we think we have to have a master plan. But
Yeah.
I think if you just look at everything as a learning opportunity,
Yeah.
nothing is lost on you that way. And you'll ultimately find your way to your sweet spot, so to speak. But it doesn't necessarily have to be, I never had a dream of being a venture capitalist or an investor or whatever, but really I'm in my sweet spot now. I mean, I really enjoy, I get to work with incredible women. I get to take my background, my business and, entrepreneurial experience and expertise and help, in many cases, women who are younger than me. They're ultimately, way more creative and have these incredible business ideas. They're doing wonderful on their own, but maybe I can come alongside with some money and also some, advice, mentoring or whatever you want to call it, and we can help grow their businesses even faster. So, yeah, all that to say is that I think it's so important that we as humans in general, but women specifically, that we remain curious, right? That we're not looking at things as like, like, oh, I'm too late. Oh, it's too late for me. I'm too old, this or that. Like, no, there's always opportunity. And we just have to be open to continually evolving and reinventing ourselves to some degree to really, kind of arrive at what we're meant to do professionally and personally.
It's such a primal, if you will, to reinvent yourself as humans. Like you just mentioned, remain curious. But do you find sometimes, and this is great, and I'm skipping forward a little bit, but I want to touch on it while you've just brought that up, that it's, we do sometimes think collectively, that there's not enough time or it's too late.
Right.
But there's just so much within us, and it's I think a lot of times you might feel that we hit a roadblock or stumble or something, and just maybe pass on that opportunity or don't pursue it. How do you maybe help others that you see potential in, or they're just not ready to take it to the next step, but they know there's something there, there's something there, but yes, we do run into that. We don't think there's enough time, or it is too late. What do you advise?
Well, I think part of that comes down to ego, right? Like we also have to be willing to set aside our, this perception of who we are and, how we kind of operate in our world. Because, obviously I went from a very, high paying job with no kids, lots of expendable income to, making a conscious decision that no, I'm going to invest in myself and my business. And so I've been building Curate for, depending on how you count it, with pandemic thrown in and all that, call it 3 or 4 or 5 years, since I had the initial idea. And, so that's a humbling experience. And so, I've had to take a step back, and because we are sacrificing a lot to build something that I think is going to be great and help a lot of people and do a lot of things. But, you know, you have to set aside your perception of yourself, other people's perception of you, and be willing to, sometimes make sacrifices and do hard things. And sometimes people don't talk about that, right? Like I've been in a season where I have to say no to a lot of things that don't fall in my priorities for this season of life. And I think that's another thing that I've really, learned to embrace over time. Like there are different seasons of life and your life is going to look different. And, like, sure, this has been a hard season of rebuilding, but at the same time, I know it's just a season. Like I know there will be other times where things will look differently. Right now, I'm in the thick of it. I've got 2 young kids. I didn't have kids until later in life either. And so I've got 2 young kids and I'm building my business. So my priorities have to be taking care of myself, taking care of my kids, and building my business. And so any opportunities that don't serve one of those 3 things, unfortunately, gets a no from me right now. Right. And so I have to like brutally filter through opportunities that come up and really focus on what's going to move the needle on my personal priorities right now. So anyway, I think I went down another rabbit hole there, but hopefully that was helpful to someone.
Well, it's amazing, because again, we struggle sometimes as women and caregivers and business owners and all of those things too. And I love how you just said that, brutally filter, to use the word no.
Yeah.
It's
And it may be,
yeah,
it may not be a no ever, but maybe
right.
it's a no right now for me. Like I don't
Yeah.
have the flexibility or freedom to, I don't know, go to every social event or charity gala or what, which I used to do, but that doesn't fit my priorities right now. It might next season of life, but right now I've got to be, just brutally honest with myself in terms of what I can do, because none of us can do it all at the same time. Over a lifetime, we might get to experience most all of, what we want to do. But in any given season, we can't be everything to everyone. And so we really have to be, honest with ourselves and what we're able to do in the here and now.
Those boundaries and priorities.
Yes.
Ah,
Yes, absolutely.
I All right, we are going to get back on track here. So, my lady, the alarm clock goes off, and you shared with us. You've got the littles, and the business and all of that. So, your work or business day begins. What's a day in the life look like for you? And given some of your background that you shared, and the creative side, are you structured? Do you crave routine, or are you more spontaneous? Talk to us a little bit about what works for you.
I am probably the least spontaneous person. So there's just, yeah, the structure required in this season of life doesn't allow for a lot of spontaneity. But I will say that every day looks different. And you've caught me on a week where I am kind of bogged down on some administrative stuff. Our year end annual reports are due to our investors this week. So that's occupied most of my time. But on a regular basis, my time is split between um, one, supporting our existing companies. So the companies we've invested in, how can we help them grow faster, better, smarter? And then also on finding new investments. And, that's really what motivates me and encourages me and excites me about my role now is, gosh, I get to see so many incredible businesses that women out there are building today. I get to meet so many incredible women. And so, that's really what's so, awe-inspiring about all this to me. And, I certainly can't invest in every business, but it's a real privilege to meet so many women who are just, filled with such incredible ideas and are really just executing excellently, and just doing remarkable work in the world. It just makes the world a better place. So, yeah, on any given month, we might receive 100 to 200 incoming pitches from founders wanting us to invest in their business. And so, it's a real privilege that people share that with us and give us the chance to be a part of that. So, kind of a split between supporting existing companies, making new investments, and then obviously, like, taking care of our investors, making sure that they're, informed and up to speed about what's going on. And that's a super cool aspect of Curate is that besides obviously our first mission is making good investments and making good returns, but a secondary mission of mine has been just to educate more women about investing, specifically in venture capital. But as it turns out, over 80% of our investors are women. So it's really cool when we announce a new investment or if, one of our companies has a new product line or whatever, I have all these incredible women who are sending me screenshots of all the products that they're ordering from our companies, all the different ways that they're supporting it, wearing the clothes, wearing the makeup, buying it for friends. Like it's a really cool ecosystem. As cheesy as it sounds, it's really the women supporting women all the way around with what we're doing at Curate.
It's a movement, my friend.
No, thanks.
It's a movement. It's a vibrant movement. Talking through what we're seeing that you are accomplishing, and definitely what you've got moving forward. Can you share with the audience maybe some positive adjustments that you've made in your life or your environment that does help support you with this growth of helping others in their dreams and goals?
Sure. Yeah, I think a big thing is, kind of as we were talking about earlier, this whole like filtering things through my priorities and being more brutal with saying no to things that don't fit those. Another has been building out a support system. And to expand on that a little bit, and without getting too much in the weeds, traditional venture capital economics are very challenging when you're starting a new fund. Without getting too, in the math, basically I get a 2% management fee. So whatever the fund size is, and ours was 15 million, that comes out to call it $300,000 a year. Well, that has to support my family and pay most of the bills for the fund and all this sort of thing. So there's not a lot of budget in the early days of a VC fund to build out a whole team internally. So what that forced me to do was get creative about how I aligned myself with different people. So some of our investors also help on the operating side. Like we have an influencer agency who invested, so they really help on the kind of marketing, influencer marketing side of things. They help support our companies that way. Another investor has a tech company, so he's able to provide some feedback on the tech as our companies are building. So all that to say, I'm just pointing out specific examples of ways that, I couldn't just go hire a big team, but you can get creative about how you motivate and incentivize people to help alongside you. And that's what I had to do in this case. So really building out a support system was critical, because I'll say during the fundraising process, a year or so ago, pretty much everything had to go through me. Everything was falling on me. And quite frankly, it took a big toll on my health, physically, mentally. It was a pretty rough patch for a while. So my focus, late last year and certainly going into this year even more, has been on growing sustainably. And so how do I do this in a way that I can manage it in a healthy way, personally with myself? And then, how do we grow in a way that's sustainable long term? So building in those systems and processes and people and redundancies that are going to make this carry on without me having to touch everything, if that makes sense.
Completely. And it actually parlays right into this question. As an independent business owner, entrepreneur, um, where do you turn to for support when you need support?
Yeah, I love this question because we all need it. One thing that I turned to, a concept that I turned to back in my corporate days, was this, and that is developing a personal board of directors, if you will. So, when I was early in my corporate career, which I'll go ahead and give dates. It was like I graduated from undergrad in 1999, the previous millennium, if you will. So a long time ago. But when I was coming up, there was a lot of talk, especially as a female in engineering, like, oh, you need to find a mentor, someone who will help you navigate the corporate world and all that. Well, I always found it a bit uh, overbearing, a bit ominous to try to find one mentor. Like, what do people mean by that? Like, there's no one person that's going to be able to offer you everything. And plus, that's a big thing to ask, right? Like, what do you do? Like, randomly just ask someone, will you be my mentor? Like, you're going to lean on that person too much. And so I always found that a little awkward conceptually. And so what I tried to do instead was just, so, one, build out my network, but then two, pick out key people in different areas where I need advice. So, on the personal side, it might be kind of a spiritual mentor. It might be, a good counselor or therapist. On the financial side, someone whose financial advice you trust. On the business side, someone you trust for X, Y, or Z. Whatever the case is, wherever you need advice, wherever you need support, wherever you have gaps in your skill set, try to fill those in with various people. And the reason that I have liked that method for myself is that then I'm not too big of a burden on any one person. I'm not turning to that one mentor per se, with every problem in my life, but yet I'm getting, sound advice, within different areas of my life from different experts that really have that expertise to speak into my life in those areas.
It's a brilliant setup to have those key players, subject matter experts, if you will. And it
Yeah,
does
and I
make
really,
sense what you say. And I've not heard anybody articulate it in that way. Breaking out, it can't be just one mentor. Why do we think that?
yeah, and it's just a little awkward
Uh-huh.
situation. I never had it work out well. It was just kind of like, what are you going to do? Go meet with your mentor once a month and expect? I mean, it's just a lot to
Yeah.
ask. So that's
Yeah.
what's worked for me. And I literally have a list. I'm like, if I need, business advice on, this part of the business, here's who I'd turn to. If I need a friend who will just listen to me. These are like my 5 go-to friends who are good listening ears, or, whatever the case is. Like, literally just write it all out, because you'll be surprised when you stop and think about it. You have a lot of people that care about you, a lot of people who can speak, wisdom and, insight into your life, when you need it the most.
Are you a list maker? I just heard you say something, so I'm going to ask you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I always have to write things down. Yeah, something
Love
magical happens when an actual, physical pen to paper, happens. Yeah, that means the world to me.
love it. Okay, cool. All right. So when you are, because again, you're doing so much to support others, and this is amazing. But when you get stuck on a goal or a dream or trying to get to that next point for something you're working on, um, what helps you? Do you have any best practices that you can share, help you get unstuck?
Well, I think, I either consult some of these, personal board of directors, or sometimes I just have to walk away for a bit. And that may mean, just taking a break to go do some yoga, go for a walk, where maybe, hey, I need to get out of town. There's something about a physical change of perspective that sometimes will, freshen up my perspective some. So, it could be as little as stepping away from my desk for, a bite of food, a little bit of exercise, some sunshine, or as much as going on a trip. Anything to kind of like freshen up your perspective, is always good. I come back with a clear idea of what to do next.
Awesome. I would love for you to share more about Curate Capital. Talk to us about just more what's going on. And you've talked about how you got there, but maybe is there a deeper inspiration that led you to create and launch a company and share with us some amazing accolades or notable milestones? Because I know there are many. So maybe pick
Uh,
a couple favorites.
Yeah, in this day and age, so much happens online, and that's great. But one thing that happened last fall is we had an actual like in-person celebration for closing our first fund. And keep in mind that I launched Curate during the pandemic. Also had an unexpected baby during the pandemic. So all these, the fundraising, a lot of the investments, a lot of this took place in the context of, when things were still relatively shut down. And so it was just all online or phone calls or Zoom calls or whatever. But in last November, we had a physical, in-person celebration. And I actually like had a little bit of got emotional, I was going to say breakdown, not a breakdown, but I actually cried tears of joy when I walked up to the event because it was pretty magical to see one, like the branding come together, the brand actually physically, look set up at this event looking so beautiful. But then to see all of our investors and founders and all these key people who had played such a big role in getting there, all those people actually gathered, it made it feel very real. And so, I think so many times we're so in the weeds of building our businesses that we don't actually like back up to appreciate and celebrate the wins, both big and small wins. And so for me, that was just a nice time to take a deep breath, take it all in, and realize, wow, we're actually creating something pretty special. And it's a beautiful thing.
So magical to hear that. Love that. Love that. This might be considered a two-part question. And
Uh-huh.
you may have already touched on one of these situations, but can you pinpoint a specific time or key event that happened that really forced you to take a monumental shift in your business or career? And going through that, positive or painful, how did going through that situation help you grow?
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes the most beautiful outcomes can be on the other side of some of the most challenging times. And so, two challenges come to mind. And the first one we talked about a little bit. I walked away from a lucrative career not knowing what was next. And I did that intentionally, but it was still scary, right? Like I didn't have a master plan of, what was next on my roadmap. And so for me, a planning, organized type A person, that was pretty scary, but I knew I just had to figure it out. I knew that I was confident that I could figure out and I wanted to figure out. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life doing what I had been doing. So it was time to figure it out for myself, right? So that was scary. But here we have this beautiful thing that we've created. But then another specific example is okay, as I was fundraising for Curate Capital Fund One, it was a struggle. So I had never been in a sales position before. I had never done fundraising. That was totally outside of my comfort zone and outside of my, skill set and experience to date. And it was very uncomfortable for me. I'd always been the type, top of my class, a high performer. And so my philosophy had always just been like, hey, just put your head down, do the work, and the results will speak for themselves. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't work when you're fundraising, particularly for a brand new fund, because you're essentially telling people, hey, bet on me, invest in me, because I didn't have a track record in this space to point to actual metrics and results. So, but anyway, as I was fundraising, my initial thought was, okay, who do I know that's sitting on excess cash that they might want to invest, right? Like key number one, who has money? And my initial inclination was, well, a bunch of the guys from my oil and gas days make a lot of money and they've known me for 20 years. Like they'll invest with me for sure. Well, the reality was that while some of those, men did invest, a lot of them did not see the value proposition or it just didn't resonate with them. They ended up passing. So I thought it would be really easy to raise our first fund from my oil and gas network. But when that didn't work out, it actually led to something much more beautiful. And as I alluded to, the vast majority of our investors are women, and that is a rarity. Like, there's no data to actually show how rare, but I know another female focused fund was bragging in a recent Forbes article that they have 20% female investors. And I'm sitting here over at 80%. So if 20% is good enough for a call out in Forbes, 80% is pretty remarkable, I think. And so, as I tell the story now, I would love to say, I had a master plan that we were going to get women involved in investing. And I mean, did I want women to invest? Yeah. Did I think that we could get 80% female investors? No, I never would have thought the metric would be that high. But what happened is as I was just talking about it on social media, on Instagram, just talking about what I was doing, like, oh, hey, we just invested in this company, or this is why it matters when you invest in women. This is, the reason I'm doing it. Women got that message right away. Either they knew about the specific portfolio company and would reply with hey, I'm a customer of that brand. Are you telling me that I can invest in that brand through you? And you're like, yeah. Or, it might just be talking about why it makes good business sense to invest in women. And people are like, yeah, I get this totally. And so, there are certain SEC guidelines around how you can even talk about your fund. There are rules and regulations. And so you can't even explicitly be, selling it necessarily. But what I found with women, like as you just tell the story about what you're doing and what you're building and why you're doing it and how you're doing it, like women connect with those stories. And ultimately, gosh, I think about 2/3 of our investors are actually Instagram followers. And so I don't really know of any other fund that has essentially fundraised from Instagram. And so I had women that I had never met, reach out and want to invest anywhere from $25,000 to $1.25 million. And that's because they had that long-term, relationship with me, that foundation of trust built up, at least with what they could see on social media. They felt confident in trusting me with their hard-earned resources because we had that long-term relationship. So I think women really want to learn about investing. They want to take more control of their finances. Women want to support other women. And I think we're giving them a good way to do that.
It's an amazing story. And like I said, it's a movement. You're creating a movement. So, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm watching the clock, and I know you've mentioned what you're doing this week. Can I hold you over for a couple of more quick questions?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Well, Carrie, we're going to take a quick break to hear from this episode's sponsor, and then we're going to dive right back in.
Beauty is not limited to our outside appearance. It's inside us. It's our professional lives and our personal passions. It's in our health and wellness, our families, friends, and loved ones. Ask Us Beauty Magazine is content designed to educate, empower, and inspire individuals on all things beauty and wellness. We do this by bringing together people of all backgrounds to share their stories, leaving you with inspiration for living your best life. Whether it's through products, services, procedures, and personal brands, we challenge the status quo. Our mission is to change the narrative, allowing each and every one of us to define beauty on our own terms. Visit us today at askusbeautymagazine.com.
All right, milady, we're back. Okay, so we're going to keep this pretty concise, but again, it's about you. So whatever you want to take, answer it in your time because I'm here for you. So talking through the amazing journey that you've had, where do you turn to for inspiration? You've shared with us, you get to pull away and you get to, go for a walk or get some sunshine. It's like eye candy looking at your Instagram profile and your entire brand marketing and the curation of all these colors. Where do you turn to for inspiration?
Oh, that's a great question. I think, sometimes where I think I'm going to get inspiration isn't where it actually comes from, right? So if I need to take a break while I'm at my desk, I might think, oh, scrolling Instagram is going to give me inspiration. Well, sometimes that zaps my inspiration as much as anything. But it's really, as silly as it sounds, it's the little everyday moments, whether it's my children or, something that I see, some art, some wise words from someone. It's the little things here and there that really motivate me and inspire me to keep going. And there's also just something intangible, I think, inside each of us, and unique to each of us, that drives us forward. And for me, I came from a small town, and meager means, and there's something inside of me that's always driving forward, and I think just always wants to accomplish more with this life, and to kind of leave a mark, so to speak. So yeah, I think there's inspiration everywhere. I mean, that's, for me, not necessarily a struggle, because I pick it up in little tidbits everywhere along the day. For me, there's just sometimes not enough hours in the day, or not enough energy in the day to get it all done. But definitely way more inspiration and ideas than I actually have time to execute on these days.
Amazing. Carrie, we all crave great resources, and the inspiration that you are sharing by everything that you're doing and helping other women and other entrepreneurs, whether it's something that would uplift, as you've just talked about, expand our minds, or, IT sometimes just get us through the day. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite book or genre or resource that, or, something that you'd like to share with the audience, and what makes it a favorite?
Oh gosh, such a great question. I think reading is a good source of inspiration, and I vacillate between always wanting to get better at business and life, and doing the nonfiction you know self-help sort of route, or going the nonfiction route to just take my mind off everything else. So on the book side, I kind of go half and half. But yeah, I mean, I'm listening to podcasts all the time. Some very specific to my business and industries, and some more general about mental health, or yeah, just kind of living a good life. I'm trying to think. Some of the business ones that I enjoy, I'll just rattle off a few for reference if other people want to check them out. There's one called How'd She Do That? That's a really fun look at businesses that women are building. Similarly, there's another one called Female Startup Club. She shares a lot of really tactical advice, and she also has a great, I believe, Australian accent, so easy to listen to as well. Gosh, there's Trading Secrets that Jason Tartick does. There's one called Entree Leadership. Gosh, a ton of kind of business podcasts that I always have on in the background as I'm working um, every day. Yeah, so those are some of my
Cool.
favorite podcasts. Definitely a big podcast person for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, I'm making my notes. We'll make sure and include those in the resource section, because it's all about sharing. So that is amazing. Thank you. All right, my lady. It has been fantastic visiting with you today. And as we begin to wrap up, keeping the promise to share intentional inspiration with our audience, do you have a piece of key go-to advice that resonates with you, or that you've got posted somewhere that you'd like to pass on?
Sure, I'll do a couple. From a business perspective, I'm always preaching know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. Even if you don't consider yourself a numbers or math sort of person, there are key metrics in your business that you need to know. Otherwise, you just don't know what's going on. So know your numbers. So that's a tactical, businessy piece of advice. But from more of a life perspective, I always resonate with the quote that says, "Be kind, for everyone you know is fighting a hard battle." And I think that's, definitely something that I've come to embrace over time, is that we don't know, but just the surface of what is going on in everyone's life. And maybe this is Pollyanna or naive of me, but I really believe that we're just all doing the best we can. And so if you can approach others with, respect and patience and kindness and dignity, I think that goes so far in helping us just all um, enjoy life more. Most of the time, things aren't personal. It's not about you. People are dealing with their own issues. So if we just approach them from a dignified, respectful, kind manner, I think it just helps the world go around so much better.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Okay, the stage is completely yours. Where can our audience go to find and connect with you on your socials, or support you in your continued success?
Oh, thanks so much for that, Amber. Yes, on social media, my personal account on Instagram is just at Carrie C, CARRIEC. And side note, claim to fame, I was on Instagram the week it launched, because I've just always enjoyed photos and sharing photos. And so thus the short username, my little claim to fame there. But we also have an account for Curate Capital, and it's just at curate.capital. And that is also our website. No .com or anything, just curate.capital. And yeah, we'd love it if you'd follow us on Instagram. We're actually like getting in a fun groove of sharing things almost daily. And it's really fun, I think, to really bring an outsider approach to venture capital and investing and try to shake things up and make it fun and relevant so that people enjoy learning about this and then can go from there.
Excellent. I'm telling you, it's a movement.
Oh, thank you, Amber. You're so kind.
Goodness gracious. Carrie, thank you for sharing your Silhouette of Success story with us. You are indeed a vibrant light, and I mean this truly an inspiration for me and for all of us watching what you're doing. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you, Amber. I totally enjoy listening to all your interviews. So thank you for having me. And I look forward to what's next from you as well.
Sounds like a plan. All right, milady. Thank you again. It has been a true pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at thesilhouettesofsuccess.com or connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We're grateful that you tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success.